Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The city of Calvara was a neon-soaked beast, sprawling under a sky split by twin suns that never quite set. Its crystalline spires stabbed upward, catching the light and throwing it back in a dizzying riot of colors, blues, purples, and reds that shimmered like oil on water. The streets pulsed with life, aliens with scales that glowed like embers, others with feathers that sang in the breeze, and some with no discernible shape at all, just shifting clouds of light. Calvara was the beating heart of the Draevon Concord, a galactic empire that claimed to have mastered the stars. To Jack Carver, it was just another place to scrape by. Jack leaned against a rusted cargo crate in the market district, his patched leather jacket smelling faintly of engine grease and cheap whiskey. His dark brown hair stuck out in clumps under a faded baseball cap, and his gray-green eyes darted across the crowd, half hoping for a job, half dreading trouble. His wrist comm flickered with a dim green glow, 42 credits. Enough for a stale protein bar and maybe a quarter tank of plasma for his junker skiff, the Rusty Claw. He rubbed his stubbled jaw, feeling the ache of 3 days without a proper meal. Same shit, different planet, he muttered, kicking a pebble across the polished obsidian street. 3 years as a freelance courier had taught him one thing: the galaxy didn't give a damn about humans. He'd hauled everything from medical supplies to black market tech across the Concord's fringes, dodging pirates and border patrols. Most jobs were barely legal, none paid enough to get ahead. But flying kept him moving, and moving kept him from thinking too hard about the life he'd left behind on Earth, a life he hadn't talked about in years. The market was a sensory overload. Vendors with too many limbs shouted in languages Jack's translator chip couldn't quite parse, their stalls piled with glowing fruits that promised to rewire your dreams, or data crystals that hummed with stolen secrets. A trio of Clithian buskers juggled plasma orbs, their feathers flashing like peacock tails, while a crowd of tourists tossed credits into a hovering jar. Jack weaved through the chaos, his boots scuffing the street, his stomach growling louder than the anti-grav skiffs overhead. He needed a gig, something that didn't involve hauling toxic waste or dodging bounty hunters for a measly 50 credits. "Come on, universe," he said under his breath, tugging his cap lower. "Just one break. I'm not picky." He was so caught up in his thoughts that he didn't see the cloaked figure until he slammed into it. The impact sent him stumbling, his elbow knocking over a stack of data crystals on a nearby stall. A low hiss cut through the market's noise, and Jack looked up to see a Draevon glaring down at him. The alien's skin was a deep indigo, streaked with silver veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Its 3 eyes, 2 big, 1 small, narrowed, and the neural band around its skull glowed an angry amber. "Watch where you're walking, human!" the Draevon snapped, its voice a mix of clicks and synthesized English that grated on Jack's nerves. "This isn't your dirtball colony." Jack forced a grin, brushing off his jacket. "My bad, pal. Didn't see you lurking under all that cloak. What's the vibe? Spy convention?" The Draevon's small eye twitched, and Jack's hand hovered near the pulse pistol at his hip, ready for a fight. But a sharp voice cut through the tension. "Vren, enough." The crowd parted, and Jack's breath caught. She was Draevon, no question, but she was something else, something that made the chaos of the market fade away. Her skin was a radiant violet, glowing faintly like a twilight sky, and her jet-black hair, streaked with silver, fell over her shoulders in waves that caught the neon light. Her eyes, twin pools of molten gold, locked onto Jack with a mix of curiosity and scorn. She wore a sleek, form-fitting suit that shimmered like liquid mercury, hugging every curve of her athletic frame. A translucent cape, embedded with tiny circuits, fluttered behind her, refracting the light into a halo. "Damn," Jack whispered, his grin creeping back despite the situation. "Did I just walk into a sci-fi flick?" The Draevon woman's lips curled into a sneer. "A human," she said, her voice smooth but sharp, like a knife dipped in honey. "How, pedestrian? Do you always stumble into your betters, or is this a special talent?" Jack chuckled, unfazed. "Betters? Lady, I'm just trying to grab a taco and not get my ass kicked." Name's Jack Carver. You got one, or do I just call you Sparkles? Her golden eyes narrowed, but before she could fire back, a deep voice called from a hover limo idling nearby. Lasara, we're late for the conclave. The tone was heavy, commanding, like someone who expected the galaxy to bend to his will. Lasara shot Jack a final glance, part disdain, part something he couldn't quite read, before turning toward the limo. As she moved, something small and metallic slipped from a hidden pocket in her suit, clinking against the street. Jack's instincts kicked in, and he knelt to pick it up. It was a palm-sized disc, its surface etched with swirling glyphs that seemed to shift like smoke. At its center, a faint green pulse flickered, warm against his calloused fingers. Hey, you dropped your... Jack started, but the limo's door was already closing. Through the tinted window, he caught Lasara's eyes widening in what looked like panic as she spotted the disc in his hand. She mouthed something, probably not a thank you, before the vehicle hummed to life and glided into the crowded sky. Jack stood there, turning the disc over in his hand. It was heavier than it looked, and the warmth spread up his arm, like it was alive. Well, that was something, he muttered, slipping it into his jacket pocket. Guess I'm playing Lost and Found now. He had no idea that this small act would drag him into a galactic conspiracy, pitting him against an empire's secrets, and pulling him toward a woman who'd sooner spit on him than shake his hand. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled, a warning honed by years of dodging trouble. He glanced over his shoulder, catching two figures in black cloaks weaving through the crowd. Their movements were too smooth, too deliberate, like predators stalking prey. Their hoods hid their faces, but Jack didn't need to see them to know they weren't here for the glowing fruit. Perfect, he sighed, quickening his pace. Just what I needed, more problems. He slipped into a side alley, the neon glow fading as the polished streets gave way to grimy metal walls. The air smelled of burnt wiring and stale beer, a stark contrast to the market's dazzle. Jack pretended to browse a stall selling knockoff neural implants, keeping the cloaked figures in his peripheral vision. They were closing in, their steps eerily synchronized. All right, Jack, he muttered, tossing a few credits to the vendor, a four-eyed reptilian who hissed in thanks, and grabbing a skewer of sizzling meat. It smelled like charred mystery, but he took a bite anyway. Not bad. He ducked into a narrow passageway between two towering structures, the shadows swallowing him as he pressed against a cold wall, listening. The cloaked figures paused at the alley's entrance, one tilting its head like it was sniffing the air. Beneath the hood, Jack glimpsed a face that wasn't Draevon, or anything he'd seen before. Its skin was mottled gray, stretched tight over a skull too long to be natural, and its eyes glowed a sickly yellow. Silith, Jack whispered, his gut tightening. He'd heard stories about the Concord's pet assassins, genetically engineered trackers who could smell a target across a planet. Not the kind of company he wanted. The human has the relic, one hissed, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. The overseer will flay us if we fail. Jack's hand tightened around the disc in his pocket. Relic? He thought. What the hell did I stumble into? The silhouettes split up, one circling toward the alley's far end. Jack backed deeper into the shadows, his boots silent on the slick floor. The passageway opened into Calvara's undercity, a maze of maintenance tunnels and black market dens where the city's shine gave way to rust and despair. He hurried down a set of creaking stairs, the neon light dimming into a flickering haze. The disc pulsed again, warmer now, and Jack pulled it out. Its glyphs shifted, teasing at meaning before dissolving into chaos. Okay, weird little thing, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. What's your deal? You're asking the wrong questions, human, a voice rasped from the shadows. Jack spun, pistol drawn, his heart pounding like a drum. A figure stepped into the dim light, a Draevon, but not like the polished noble's topside. His skin was a dull teal, scarred and weathered, and his left arm was a sleek prosthetic that hummed faintly. His single organic eye studied Jack with a mix of curiosity and caution, while a patchwork cloak hung over his shoulders, hiding a scar that ran across his face like a cracked road. Whoa, easy, Robocop! Jack said, keeping his pistol steady. You with the cloak creeps, or is this a solo gig? The Draevon raised his hands, the prosthetic glinting in the low light. If I wanted you dead, you'd be a smear on the floor. Name's Cor. I'm a keeper of old things. His eye flicked to the disc. And you're holding something that's gonna get you killed. Jack's grip tightened on the disc. This? Found it on the street. Belongs to a fancy lady named Lysara. You know her? Cor's expression darkened. Lysara Terran, highborn. Her family's tied to the Concord's dirtiest secrets. That disc? It's a shard of the Covenant. One of 9 keys to a truth the Draevon elite buried long ago. Jack raised an eyebrow, his stomach growling again. Sounds like a lot of trouble for a shiny paperweight. You gonna tell me what it does, or do I have to guess? Cor snorted, a sound almost human. It's older than your species' first rocket. The Covenant was a pact between Draevon and humans, forged when your kind were still figuring out fire. It bound our peoples together, until the Highborn decided humans were too chaotic and rewrote history. Jack's jaw clenched. He'd heard the Concord's propaganda. Humans were primitive, barely worth a footnote in their archives. But this? This was something else. Humans and Draevon? Buddies? That's a hell of a story. No story, Cor said, pulling up a holodisplay from his prosthetic arm. It showed a faded mural, a human and a Draevon, hands clasped, standing before a glowing altar. The shards unlocked the Sanctuary of Unity, a temple holding the secrets of our shared past. The Highborn want it hidden. The Silith want it for their overseer, Val Thor, a warlord who'd burn worlds to rule them. The disc pulsed violently in Jack's hand, and a vision hit him like a punch, a vast chamber, glowing with ancient symbols, and 2 figures, one human, one Draevon, standing hand in hand. The image shifted to a war, ships exploding, cities burning, a human voice screaming in betrayal. Jack staggered, clutching the wall, his pulse racing. What the hell was that? He gasped, shaking off the vision. Cor's eye widened. The shard's talking to you. That's not supposed to happen. Humans aren't attuned. Yeah, well, I'm a special snowflake, Jack said, pocketing the disc. His hands were shaking, but he played it off with a grin. So what's the plan? I'm not keen on being Silith Chow. Cor hesitated, then pointed to a hollow map of the Undercity. There's a safe house deeper in the tunnels. I can get you there, but you gotta trust me. Trust a guy who looks like he's one bad day from selling me for parts? Jack chuckled, but his options were slim. Fine. Lead the way. A low rumble shook the tunnel, and dust sifted from the ceiling. Cor froze. They've got seismic trackers. Move. Jack followed, his pistol still in hand. The tunnels grew darker, the air thick with the smell of rust and coolant. The disc's warmth spread through his chest, like a heartbeat syncing with his own. Cor moved like he'd been born in these shadows, triggering hidden panels to seal passages behind them. So, this Lysara, Jack said, trying to keep his mind off the growing sense of dread. She's a big deal, huh? Why is she carrying around a galaxy-changing trinket? Lysara's highborn, daughter of Counselor Terran, Cor replied, his voice low. Her family's guarded one of the shards for centuries, but they don't know its true power. If she knew you had it, she'd gut you to get it back. Real charmer, Jack said, his mind flashing to her golden eyes and that fleeting look of panic. Can't wait for the reunion. Another rumble, closer this time. Cor pulled a compact rifle from his cloak, its barrel glowing faintly. Stay close, Jack. They're here. The tunnel opened into a cavernous chamber, its walls carved with glowing glyphs that pulsed like a heartbeat. At the center stood a stone dais, etched with a map of the galaxy, stars linked by shimmering lines. Jack's breath caught. What is this place? A Covenant temple, Cor said, his voice reverent. One of the first built when our peoples met. The disc pulsed again, and another vision slammed into Jack. A human woman and a Draevon man, their hands joined over a glowing altar, surrounded by cheering crowds. The scene shifted to betrayal. A human gunned down by Draevon soldiers. A voice whispered in an ancient tongue. The bond must be renewed, or all will fall. Jack stumbled, his knees buckling. Okay, this thing needs a mute button, he said, his voice shaky. He wasn't used to feeling this out of control, and it scared him more than he'd admit. Kor grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a side passage. No time. The Silith are here. A metallic screech echoed as the far wall buckled. 3 Silith burst through, their yellow eyes locking on to Jack. The shard! One hissed, raising a jagged blade that hummed with plasma. Jack fired first, his pulse pistol spitting blue bolts that singed the nearest Silith's chest. It staggered but kept coming. Kor's rifle roared, dropping another with a shot to its skull. The third lunged at Jack, its blade slicing his jacket before he dove aside, slamming his boot into its knee. The Silith howled, and Kor finished it with a blast to the head. Nice moves, Jack panted, scrambling to his feet. His heart was pounding, but he felt alive, the adrenaline washing away the hunger and exhaustion. Don't get cocky, Kor said, a glint of respect in his eye. More are coming. We need the safe house. They ran, the disk's glow guiding them through the dark. The tunnel sloped upward, opening into a hidden hangar carved into the city's bedrock. Ancient ships, their hulls curved like seashells, sat in rows, their surfaces pulsing with faint light. Holy crap, Jack said, eyeing the ships. These could outrun anything the Concords got. Covenant relics, Kor said. Built before the schism. Untouched for millennia. A familiar voice cut through the hangar. And they'll stay untouched, human. Jack spun, pistol raised, to find Lysara standing at the entrance to another tunnel. She'd swapped her flashy suit for a tactical jumpsuit, its iridescent fabric shifting colors like a chameleon. Her golden eyes burned with fury, and a plasma carbine rested in her hands. Well, damn, Jack said, lowering his weapon slightly. You're persistent, I'll give you that. Give me the shard, Lysara demanded, stepping closer. You're meddling with forces you can't comprehend. Jack held up the disc, its green pulse steady. This? Found it on the street. Figured it was yours, but it's starting to grow on me. Her eyes flicked to Kor, and her expression hardened. You're with him? A traitor to the Concord? Kor stepped forward, rifle lowered but ready. Traitor? I'm trying to save our people, Lysara. The shards bonded to him. You felt it, didn't you? Lysara's composure faltered, her gaze darting to Jack. Impossible. He's human. Yeah, and I'm right here, Jack said, pocketing the disc. Look, I don't want this thing any more than you want me to have it. But those Silith creeps are after it, so maybe we should talk before they crash the party. An explosion shook the hangar, and Lysara's carbine snapped up. They've breached the outer tunnels. We need to move. Jack grinned. Guess we're a team now. Where to, Sparkles? Stop calling me that, she snapped, but her lips twitched, betraying a hint of amusement. My shuttle's nearby. We can reach the Nexus, a neutral station outside Concord space. Kor nodded. The Nexus is safe, for now. But the Silith won't stop, and neither will your father's enforcers. Lysara's jaw tightened. My father doesn't know I'm here. Oh, this just gets better, Jack said, following as Lysara led the way to a sleek shuttle tucked into an alcove. Its hull gleamed like polished obsidian, and its engines hummed with power. Nice ride, Jack said, running a hand along the hull. It reminded him of the muscle cars his dad used to tinker with back on Earth, before everything went to hell. A family perk, Lysara replied, sliding into the pilot's seat. Get in, human, and don't touch anything. Name's Jack, he said, strapping into the co-pilot's chair. And I'm pretty good with shiny things. Kor took a rear seat, his rifle across his lap. The shuttle lifted off as the hangar shook, chunks of stone falling from the ceiling. Through the viewport, Jack saw Silith's ships, sleek, predatory craft, closing in. Here we go, Lysara muttered, her fingers dancing across the controls. The shuttle roared out of a hidden exit, bursting into Calvara's chaotic airspace. Warning lights flashed as energy bolts streaked past, grazing the hull. Any weapons on this thing? Jack asked, scanning the console. His hands itched to do something, anything, to feel in control. It's a diplomatic shuttle, Lysara said, her tone sharp. We don't arm our. Yeah, I get it, Jack cut in. Mind if I drive? Lysara shot him a look that could have curdled milk. You pilot a Draevon shuttle? Lady, I've flown wrecks through asteroid storms with half an engine and a prayer. Move over. To his surprise, she slid aside, muttering about human arrogance. Jack grabbed the controls, his hands settling into the familiar rhythm of a cockpit. He banked the shuttle hard, weaving between towering spires as Silith's ships pursued. 5 bogeys, he said, a grin spreading across his face. He hadn't felt this alive in months. Let's see how they handle a little chaos. He dove beneath the skybridge, the shuttle shields sparking as debris rained down. One Silith ship miscalculated, slamming into a spire and erupting in a fireball. For left, Jack said, pushing the engines to their limit. Lysara watched him, her expression a mix of irritation and grudging respect. Where did you learn to fly like this? Running from people who want me dead, Jack said, dodging another blast. Story of my life. The disc pulsed in his pocket, and a faint green light spilled across the console. Paths appeared in his mind, safe routes through the city's airspace that shouldn't have been visible. What the? He muttered, following the instinct. The shuttle twisted through a narrow gap between 2 buildings, leaving another Silith ship in a shower of sparks. The shard's guiding you, Lysara whispered, her voice tinged with awe. It's never done that for anyone outside the bloodline. Guess I'm full of surprises, Jack said, winking despite the sweat beading on his forehead. Where's this Nexus place? Edge of the system, Kor answered. A station for outcasts and scholars. The Silith won't follow us there, it's too chaotic for their trackers. The shuttle cleared Kalvara's atmosphere, the twin suns blazing above. Space stretched before them, vast and unforgiving, with the Silith ships still in pursuit. Jack pushed the shuttle toward a swirling vortex of gas and debris, the remnants of a collapsed star. The Nexus is in that? He asked, eyeing the maelstrom. His stomach churned, but he shoved the fear down. He'd faced worse odds. It's hidden in the chaos, Lysara said. Trust the shard. Jack laughed, a shaky edge to it. Trust a glowing paperweight. Sure, why not? As the shuttle dove into the vortex, the Silith ships hesitated, their sensors scrambled by the cosmic storm. Jack followed the shard's guidance, weaving through currents of plasma and rock. The Nexus emerged ahead, a jagged station cobbled together from salvaged ships and asteroid fragments, glowing faintly against the void. We made it, Lysara breathed, her shoulders relaxing. For now, Kor said, his eyes scanning the sensors. The Silith won't stop, and neither will the Concord's enforcers. Jack set the shuttle down in a crowded docking bay, where species of every kind bartered and brawled. As the hatch opened, Lysara turned to him, her golden eyes searching his face. You're not what I expected, Jack Carver. He grinned, stepping onto the Nexus's grimy deck. Stick around, Sparkles. I'm just getting started. The Nexus was a junkyard masquerading as a space station, a chaotic patchwork of salvaged ships, asteroid chunks, and flickering hollow panels that screamed commerce in a dozen alien tongues. Its air was thick with the stench of burnt circuits, recycled oxygen, and desperation. Jack Carver stepped off Lysara's shuttle onto a docking bay packed with traders, smugglers, and outcasts from every corner of the Draevon Concord. His boots clanged against the grimy deck, and he tugged his faded baseball cap lower, feeling the weight of the shard of the Covenant in his jacket pocket. It pulsed faintly, like a second heartbeat, and he couldn't shake the feeling it was watching him. Well, this place is a real 5-star resort, Jack muttered, dodging a 6-limbed vendor hawking glowing vials that promised eternal clarity. His stomach growled, a reminder of the half-eaten skewer back in Kalvara. Any chance we can grab a burger before the galaxy tries to kill us again? Lysara, standing beside him, shot him a look that could have melted steel. Her violet skin shimmered under the Nexus's flickering lights, and her tactical jumpsuit shifted colors with every move, blending into the chaos. "Focus, human," she said, her golden eyes scanning the crowd. "The Nexus is neutral ground, but it's not safe. The Silith could have agents here." "Name's Jack," he corrected, flashing a grin despite the tension. "And I'm focused. Hungry, but focused." Kor, the scarred Draevon with the prosthetic arm, stepped out behind them, his compact rifle slung across his back. His single organic eye darted across the bay, catching every movement. "She's right, Jack. The Silith don't play by Nexus rules. Neither does your father's enforcers, Lysara." Lysara's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. Jack caught the flicker of unease in her eyes. Something about her father, Counselor Terran, hit a nerve. He filed it away, his years as a courier teaching him to read people, even ones with glowing skin and 3 eyes. "All right, so what's the plan?" Jack asked, weaving through a crowd of feathered Clithians bartering over a crate of humming crystals. "We hide out here, hope the bad guys get bored, and what? Sell this shard thing on the black market?" Lysara stopped dead, her cape swirling as she turned to face him. "The shard is not some trinket to be pawned off, Jack Carver. It's a key to the Sanctuary of Unity, a temple that holds the truth about our people's history. If Valthar Silith get it, they'll use it to tear the Concord apart." Jack raised an eyebrow, the disc pulsing warmly in his pocket. "Yeah, Kor mentioned the whole ancient pact thing. Humans and Draevon holding hands, singing songs, then stabbing each other in the back. Still doesn't explain why this thing's giving me visions like I'm starring in a holodrama." Kor's scarred face cracked a rare smile. "The shard's chosen you, Jack. That's rare, maybe unprecedented, for a human. It means you're tied to the Covenant, whether you like it or not." "Great," Jack said, rubbing his stubble. "I didn't sign up for cosmic destiny. I just wanted to pay my fuel bill." Lysara's eyes softened, just for a moment, before her aristocratic mask snapped back into place. "Destiny doesn't ask for volunteers. Come on. We need to find someone who can help us decode the shard's visions." She led them through the Nexus's labyrinthine corridors, past stalls selling everything from neural implants to bioengineered pets that hissed in harmonic chords. Jack's head spun, the chaos reminding him of the flea markets back on Earth, where he'd scrounged for parts as a kid after his dad's garage went under. The memory stung. His dad's calloused hands, the smell of motor oil, the fights that drove Jack to the stars. He shook it off, focusing on the present. No use digging up ghosts. They reached a dimly lit sector of the station, where the polished sheen of the Concorde gave way to rust and flickering lights. Kor gestured to a reinforced door marked with glyphs that matched the ones on the shard. "This is it. The archive. Home to scholars who study what the Concorde wants forgotten." Lysara knocked, a precise rhythm that felt like a code. The door slid open, revealing a cavernous chamber filled with hollow displays, ancient tablets, and artifacts that hummed with faint energy. At the center stood an elderly Draevon, her skin a faded teal, her eyes clouded with age but sharp with intellect. Intricate tattoos covered her arms, each symbol a story Jack couldn't read. "Welcome, Lysara Terran," the Draevon said, her voice like wind over stone. "And a human?" Her gaze locked onto Jack, curiosity replacing surprise. "I am Vera, keeper of the archive. What brings you to this forgotten corner of the galaxy?" Lysara stepped forward, her posture rigid. "Vera, we have a shard of the Covenant. It's bonded to him." She nodded toward Jack, her tone a mix of disbelief and frustration. Vera's eyes widened, and she gestured for them to approach a central dais. Jack pulled the shard from his pocket, its green pulse brighter now, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. He placed it on the dais, and the glyphs flared to life, projecting a holographic map of the galaxy, stars connected by shimmering lines, some pulsing with faint green light. "Remarkable," Vera murmured, her fingers tracing the air above the map. "The shard is active, attuned to a human. This hasn't happened since the Covenant's fall." Jack shifted uncomfortably, the weight of their stares pressing on him. Look, I'm just a guy who picked up a shiny thing. Can someone explain what's going on before I get another headache? Veyra's lips twitched, almost a smile. The Covenant was a pact between Draevon and humans, forged 10,000 years ago when your kind first touched the stars. Together, we built wonders, cities that spanned systems, ships that danced between black holes. The shards were keys to the Sanctuary of Unity, a temple that held the secret of our bond. Jack frowned, the visions from Kalvara flickering in his mind, humans and Draevon fighting together, then torn apart. So what happened? Why did all go to hell? Veyra's expression darkened. The Schism. A faction of Draevon highborn, led by the ancestors of Counselor Terran's line, feared human unpredictability. They saw your passion, your defiance, as a threat to their control. They betrayed the Covenant, erased our shared history, and scattered the shards. The sanctuary was sealed, and humans were relegated to the fringes of the Concord. Lysara's face paled, her golden eyes darting to the floor. Jack caught the guilt in her expression, and it hit him harder than he expected. She wasn't just a noble, she was carrying the weight of her family's sins. Okay, so the Highborn screwed us over, Jack said, his voice tight. What's the shard doing now? Why is it picking me? Veyra studied him, her clouded eyes piercing. The shards are more than technology. They're alive in a way. They choose those who echo the original bonded pairs, humans and Draevon who sealed the Covenant through a ritual of unity. Your visions suggest you're one of those echoes. Jack laughed, a nervous edge to it. Echoes? Like reincarnation? Lady, I'm a courier, not a space messiah. Kor chuckled, but Lysara's voice was soft, almost vulnerable. The visions don't lie, Jack. I felt it too, when the shard activated. A connection. She looked away, her violet skin flushing a deeper shade. Jack's heart skipped, but before he could process her words, alarms blared through the archive. A young Draevon scholar burst in, his 3 eyes wide with panic. Veyra, ships just docked, Silith interceptors and Concord enforcers. They're sweeping the station. Lysara cursed under her breath. My father's men. They must have tracked the shard signal. Kor grabbed his rifle, his prosthetic arm sparking. Or Valther's Silith. Either way, we're out of time. Veyra moved with surprising speed, pressing a sequence on the dais. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel. This leads to the Nexus's core, a smuggling port with Covenant-era ships. Take the shard and go. Find the second shard in the Veil Nebula. It's the only way to unlock the sanctuary before Valthor does. Jack grabbed the shard, its warmth spreading through his chest. What about you? He asked, his voice rougher than he meant. He didn't know Veyra, but her quiet strength reminded him of his mom, back before the cancer took her. Veyra smiled sadly. My place is here, guarding the truth. Go, Jack Carver. The galaxy needs you more than you know. Lysara hesitated, then squeezed Veyra's hand. Thank you, mentor. Her voice cracked, and Jack saw the weight of leaving someone behind, a feeling he knew too well. Kor pushed them toward the tunnel. Move. They're closing in. The tunnel was a claustrophobic maze, its walls etched with faded glyphs that glowed under the shard's light. Jack's boots echoed as he ran, Lysara and Kor close behind. The visions hit again, unbidden, a human woman and Draevon man, their hands joined in a glowing chamber, their faces filled with hope. Then betrayal, blaster fire, screams, a city crumbling. Jack stumbled, clutching his head. Jack, you okay? Lysara grabbed his arm, her touch warm and steady. Her golden eyes searched his face, and for a moment, he forgot the danger. Yeah, he lied, shaking off the dizziness. Just this damn disc screwing with my head. Kor's prosthetic arm sparked as he triggered a hidden door. We're here. The tunnel opened into a cavernous smuggling port, its ceiling studded with luminescent crystals that cast an ethereal glow. Ancient Covenant ships sat in rows, their curved hulls like seashells, humming with latent power. Jack's jaw dropped. These things still fly? They're built to last millennia. Kor said, moving toward a sleek vessel with a hull that shimmered like liquid silver. This one's the Dawn Runner. Fastest in the fleet. Lysara climbed aboard, her movements graceful but tense. I'll pilot. We need to reach the Veil Nebula before. A plasma bolt scorched the deck, and Jack dove behind a crate, his pulse pistol drawn. 6 Siliths stormed the port, their mottled gray skin and yellow eyes glowing in the dim light. Behind them, Concord enforcers in sleek armor advanced, their rifles trained. Give us the shard. A Silith hissed, its blade humming with plasma. Jack fired, his shot grazing a Silith's shoulder. Yeah, not happening, buddy. Kor's rifle roared, dropping one enforcer, while Lysara unleashed a barrage from her carbine, her movements precise and deadly. Jack couldn't help but admire her. She fought like she was born for it, her violet skin glowing brighter with each shot. Get to the ship. Kor shouted, laying down cover fire. A Silith lunged at him, its blade slicing his prosthetic arm. Sparks flew, but Kor slammed the butt of his rifle into its skull, dropping it. Jack sprinted for the Dawn Runner, Lysara covering him. A Concord enforcer aimed at her, and Jack tackled her behind a crate, his body shielding hers. Their faces were inches apart, her breath warm against his cheek. You good? He asked, his voice hoarse. Her golden eyes held his, a mix of surprise and something deeper. I'm fine. Don't make a habit of this. Saving your ass? Too late. He grinned, pulling her to her feet. They reached the ship, Kor limping behind, his arms sparking wildly. Lysara slid into the pilot's seat, her fingers flying across the controls. The Dawn Runner hummed to life, its engines vibrating through Jack's bones. He strapped into the co-pilot's chair, the shard pulsing in his pocket. Hold on, Lysara said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The ship shot out of the port, weaving through the Nexus's cluttered airspace as Silith and Concord ships pursued. Jack scanned the console, his hands itching to take over. Any weapons on this thing, or is it another diplomatic paperweight? Lysara's lips twitched. Covenant ships don't need weapons. They're built for evasion. But she flipped a switch, revealing a hidden panel with plasma cannon controls. I made some modifications. Jack laughed, a genuine sound that cut through his fear. I knew I liked you. She shot him a look, half irritation, half amusement, as she banked the ship through a field of derelict hulls. The pursuers fired, their bolts grazing the shields. Jack manned the cannons, his aim sloppy but effective, blasting a Silith ship into debris. Nice shot, Lysara said, a grudging respect in her voice. Beginner's luck, he replied, but his chest swelled. For the first time in years he felt like he was more than a broke courier. The shard pulsed again, and a vision flooded his mind, a nebula swirling with violet and green, a hidden temple pulsing with light. 2 figures, a human and a Draevon, stood before an altar, their hands joined. A voice whispered, "Find the second shard, or the void will rise." Jack gasped, the vision fading. "The Veil Nebula," he said, his voice shaky. "That's where we're going, right?" Lysara nodded, her eyes narrowing. "How did you know?" "This thing's got a mind of its own," he said, tapping the shard. "Showed me a temple. And something about a void. Any idea what that means?" Kor, nursing his damaged arm, leaned forward. "The void is a myth, a force that nearly destroyed both our peoples during the Covenant. The shards were created to seal it away. If Valther's after them, he might be trying to unleash it." "Great," Jack said, rubbing his temples. "So we're not just running from assassins, we're saving the galaxy from a cosmic boogeyman. No pressure." The Dawn Runner cleared the Nexus, diving into the Veil Nebula's swirling clouds. The sensors flickered, scrambled by the nebula's radiation. The pursuing ships fell back, unable to navigate the chaos, but Jack knew they weren't safe yet. Lysara's hands steadied on the controls, her expression unreadable. "The second shard is hidden in a Covenant outpost on a rogue planetoid. If we find it, we can unlock more of the Sanctuary's secrets. And if we don't?" Jack asked. She met his gaze, her golden eyes fierce. Then Valthor wins, and everything our ancestors built burns. Jack leaned back, the shard's warmth grounding him. He thought of Earth, the garage, his dad's laugh, the fights that drove him away. He'd spent years running, but now, for the first time, he felt like he was running towards something. All right, Sparkles. Let's find this shard and stick it to the bad guys. Stop calling me that, she said, but her lips curved into a small smile, and Jack's heart did a stupid little flip. The Doorrunner plunged deeper into the nebula, the stars fading into a violet haze. The shard pulsed steadily, its visions growing clearer. A temple, a ritual, a bond that could save or doom them all. Jack didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing: he wasn't just a courier anymore. He was part of something bigger, and he'd be damned if he let the galaxy down. The Veil Nebula was a cosmic kaleidoscope, its violet and green clouds swirling around the Dawnrunner like a dream gone wild. Jack Carver gripped the co-pilot's chair, his knuckles white, as Lysara navigated the Covenant ship through currents of plasma and asteroid debris. The rogue planetoid loomed ahead, a jagged sphere of black stone orbiting no star, its surface dotted with the faint glow of ancient structures. The second shard of the Covenant was hidden there, somewhere in a long-forgotten outpost, and with it, the key to unlocking the Sanctuary of Unity. Jack's stomach churned, not from the nebula's turbulence, but from the weight of it all. He was a courier, a guy who hauled junk across the galaxy to pay for fuel and cheap whiskey. Now he was chasing a mythic temple to stop a warlord named Valthor from unleashing some cosmic boogeyman called the Void. The shard in his pocket pulsed, warm and steady, like it knew he was doubting himself. "You're quiet," Lysara said, her golden eyes flicking toward him. Her violet skin shimmered under the cockpit's dim lights, and her voice carried a softness that hadn't been there back in Calvara. "Not like you." Jack forced a grin, tugging his faded baseball cap lower. "Just wondering how I went from dodging repo drones to saving the galaxy. You know, normal Tuesday stuff." She didn't smile, but her lips twitched, and that was enough. "You're more than you think, Jack Carver. The shard chose you for a reason." "Yeah, well, it's got shitty taste," he muttered, but her words hit deeper than he'd admit. He thought of his dad's garage back on Earth, the smell of motor oil, the fights that drove him to the stars. He'd spent years running from who he was, but maybe, just maybe, he was starting to figure it out. Cor, in the rear seat, adjusted his sparking prosthetic arm, his single eye scanning the sensors. "We're approaching the outpost. No Silith or Concord ships yet, but Valthor's not far behind. He'll have felt the first shard's activation." Jack nodded, his hand brushing the pulse pistol at his hip. "So we grab the second shard, unlock this sanctuary thing, and what? Hope it comes with an instruction manual?" Lysara's expression hardened. "The sanctuary holds the truth of the Covenant, our shared history, and the power to seal the void. If Valthor gets there first, he'll use it to tear the Concord apart." "Got it," Jack said, his voice steadier than he felt. "No pressure, then." The Dawnrunner touched down on a cracked stone platform, the outpost's ruins rising around them like the bones of a forgotten giant. Crystalline spires, half collapsed, glowed faintly under the nebula's light, their surfaces etched with glyphs that matched the shards. The air was thin, breathable but cold, and Jack's breath fogged as they stepped out, Lysara's plasma carbine ready, Cor's rifle humming. "Place gives me the creeps," Jack said, his boots crunching on the stone. He pulled the shard from his pocket, its green pulse brighter now, guiding them toward a central dome. "This thing's like a cosmic GPS." Cor's eye narrowed. "Stay sharp. The outpost's defenses might still be active." They moved through the ruins, the shard's light casting eerie shadows. Jack's mind flashed to the visions, humans and Draevon fighting together, then betrayed. The voice from the last vision echoed. "The bond must be renewed, or all will fall." He shook it off, focusing on the present. No use chasing ghosts when real ones were hunting them. The dome's entrance was sealed by a massive stone door, its surface pulsing with glyphs. Jack held the shard aloft, and the door rumbled open, revealing a chamber lit by floating orbs. At its center stood an altar, and on it, the second shard, a twin to the first, glowing a deep violet. "Jackpot," Jack whispered, stepping forward. A low hum filled the chamber, and the floor shook. Hollow projectors flickered to life, displaying a Draevon and a human, their hands joined. The Draevon spoke, its voice echoing in Jack's translator chip. The covenant binds us. The shards seal the void. Only the bonded may renew the pact. The vision hit hard, a human woman and Draevon man, their hands clasped over an altar, their faces radiant with hope. Then darkness, a swarm of void-black creatures, devouring stars. Jack staggered, Lysara catching his arm. You saw it too, didn't you? She whispered, her golden eyes wide. Yeah, Jack said, his voice rough. The void's real, isn't it? Cor nodded grimly. And it's waking. Jack grabbed the second shard, its violet pulse syncing with the first. The chamber trembled, and a new vision flooded his mind, a temple in the heart of the galaxy, glowing with 9 shards, humans and Draevon standing as equals. The voice returned. Find the sanctuary. Renew the bond. Before he could process it, alarms blared. Cor checked his wrist calm. Scylla's ships, incoming. Valther's here. Lysara's face paled. We need to reach the sanctuary now. The 2 shards will guide us. They sprinted back to the Dawnrunner, the ground shaking as Scylla's interceptors screamed overhead. Jack strapped in, the shards pulsing in his jacket. Lysara lifted off, weaving through the nebula's chaos as enemy fire grazed the shields. Any chance we can outrun them? Jack asked, manning the plasma cannons. Not likely, Cor said, his rifle ready. But we can fight. Jack fired, his shots blasting a Scylla's ship into debris. That's the spirit. Lysara's fingers danced across the controls, her voice steady. The shards are syncing with the ship's NAV system. They're showing a path to the sanctuary, coordinates at the galaxy's core. Jack's stomach dropped. The core? That's a black hole's backyard. Exactly, Lysara said, her eyes fierce. The sanctuary's hidden where no one dares go. The Dawnrunner plunged deeper into the nebula, the Scyllath in pursuit. Jack's heart pounded, but he felt alive, the shard's warmth grounding him. He glanced at Lysara, her focus unbreakable, and something stirred in his chest, something he hadn't felt since Earth. The galaxy's core was a cosmic furnace, a maelstrom of stars and gravity that made the Veil Nebula look like a kiddie pool. The Dawnrunner emerged from a wormhole, guided by the shards, and before them loomed the Sanctuary of Unity, a massive temple carved from a crystalline asteroid, its surface glowing with ancient power. 9 alcoves circled its exterior, 2 now pulsing with the shard's light. Holy hell, Jack whispered, his breath catching. That's something. Lysara's voice was soft, almost reverent. The heart of the covenant. Our ancestors built this together. Cor's eye widened. And it's still intact. The Dawnrunner docked at a crystalline platform, but before they could disembark, Scylla's ships emerged from the wormhole, followed by a massive warship, Valther's flagship, its hull black as the void. A hollow transmission crackled to life, revealing a Draevon unlike any Jack had seen. Valther's skin was ashen, streaked with black veins, and his eyes glowed an unnatural red. His presence felt wrong, like a wound in reality. Give me the shards, Valthor rasped, his voice echoing with malice. Or I'll unleash the void and watch your worlds burn. Jack's blood ran cold. Yeah, hard pass, buddy. Lysara's hand tightened on the controls. He's not bluffing. The void's power is tied to the sanctuary. If he corrupts the shards, then we don't let him, Jack said, his voice firm. He pulled the shards from his pocket, their pulses syncing with his heartbeat. Let's finish this. They fought their way into the sanctuary, Scyllath swarming the crystalline halls. Jack's pistol blazed, his aim steadier now, fueled by a fire he hadn't known he had. Lysara fought beside him, her carbine a blur, her violet skin glowing brighter with each shot. Cor covered their rear, his prosthetic arms sparking but unyielding. The central chamber was a cathedral of light, its walls pulsing with glyphs. 9 altars circled a glowing dais, 2 holding the shards. A hollow mural depicted humans and Draevon building the sanctuary, then fighting a swarm of void-black creatures. Jack's visions made sense now. The void wasn't just a myth. It was a predator, sealed by the Covenant's bond. Valthor stood at the dais, his red eyes locked on the shards. "You're too late, human. The void hungers." Jack's heart pounded, but he stepped forward, the shards warm in his hands. "You talk a big game, but you're just a bully with a fancy ship. Let's see how you handle a fair fight." Valthor laughed, a sound like breaking glass, and raised a clawed hand. The chamber shook, and void-black tendrils erupted from the floor, lashing at Jack. Lysara fired, her bolts dissipating the tendrils, while Kor tackled a Silith guard. "Place the shards," Lysara shouted, dodging a tendril. "The altars will activate the ritual." Jack sprinted to the altars, slamming the green shard into one, then the violet into another. The chamber blazed with light, and a vision hit him, the original bonded pairs, human and Draevon, joining hands to seal the void. The voice roared, "Renew the bond." Valthor lunged, his claws grazing Jack's jacket. Lysara tackled him, her carbine pressed to his chest, but Valthor threw her aside, his strength unnatural. Jack dove for her, catching her before she hit the wall. "You okay?" he gasped, their faces inches apart. Her golden eyes held his, fierce and vulnerable. "Don't let him win, Jack." Kor roared, his rifle blasting Valthor's shoulder, but the warlord barely flinched. "The void is my ally," he snarled, raising his hand. The tendrils surged, wrapping around Kor's legs. Jack's mind raced. The visions, the voice, they all pointed to one thing. "Lysara, the ritual, it's us, isn't it? We're the bond." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. The Covenant's strength was unity. Human and Draevon together. Jack grabbed her hand, their fingers interlocking. The shards blazed, and the chamber's light converged on them. Valthor screamed, the tendrils recoiling. Jack felt Lysara's pulse, her warmth, and something deeper, a connection that transcended species, time, everything. "Focus," she whispered, her voice steadying him. They stepped onto the dais, hands joined, and the sanctuary roared to life. The hollow mural shifted, showing humans and Draevon fighting the void, then standing as equals. The void tendrils dissolved, and Valthor staggered, his red eyes dimming. "No!" he roared, lunging at them. Jack fired his pistol, the bolt hitting Valthor's chest. Lysara's carbine followed, and Kor, freed from the tendrils, landed a final shot. Valthor collapsed, his body dissolving into black ash. The chamber fell silent, the shard's light fading to a soft glow. Jack's legs buckled, and Lysara caught him, their hands still joined. "We did it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yeah," Jack said, his grin shaky. "Not bad for a courier and a princess." "Stop calling me that," she said, but she smiled, a real one, warm and unguarded. Kor limped over, his prosthetic arm dangling. "The void's sealed, but the other shards are still out there. The Concord won't like this." Jack nodded, the weight of it settling in. "Then we keep fighting. Together." The Dawnrunner left the sanctuary, the galaxy's core fading behind them. Jack stood in the cockpit, Lysara at the controls, Kor repairing his arm in the rear. The shards rested in a secure compartment, their pulses steady, like a promise. Jack looked at Lysara, her violet skin glowing softly. "So, what's next, Sparkles? Back to Kelvara to face your dad?" She sighed, but her eyes were bright. "My father needs to know the truth. The Concord needs to change. And I'm not doing it alone." Jack's heart did that stupid flip again. "You saying you need me around?" She met his gaze, her smile teasing. "Don't get cocky, Jack Carver." "But yes." He laughed, a sound that felt like home. "Good. 'Cause I'm not going anywhere." Kor snorted from the back. "You two are worse than a holoromance. Focus on the mission." The Dawnrunner soared toward the stars, the galaxy sprawling before them. Jack thought of Earth, his dad, his mom, the kid who dreamed of the stars. He wasn't that kid anymore, but he'd found something better, a purpose, a fight worth having, and a woman who saw him for who he was. The shards pulsed, a reminder of the work ahead. 7 more were out there, and the Concord wouldn't give them up easily. But Jack wasn't afraid. He was human, stubborn as hell, and he had Lysara and Kor by his side. The galaxy could throw whatever it wanted at them, they'd face it together. As the stars streaked past, Jack leaned back, his grin wide. "All right, universe. Let's see what you've got next."